Damn, bro. You make some decisions look so questionable out there.
You're now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your hosts, Andrew Chang and Justin Goddard.
Hello and welcome to the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show on the Built-in Buffalo Network. My name is Andrew Chang, and alongside me, as always, is my co-host Justin Goddard. Tonight, Justin and I are going to talk about how Josh Allen and Sean McDermott extends their legal guardianship over the Miami Dolphins and Brian Flores by beating them on Halloween Day for a score of 26-11. We'll talk about all the highlights, lowlights, takeaways, and just our general feelings about that game. But first, as always, you can find us on most social media and podcasting platforms, and even on YouTube by searching the Wandering Buffalo Podcast. And we also have amazing colleagues and content creators over at the Built-in Buffalo Network, so check them out. But first and always, Justin, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Riding high off this win. It was a little bit of a weird game, but kind of as anticipated. It was a closer game in the division than the first game. But getting out of there with the W, it doesn't really matter how it happens. I'm glad to be riding high on a win this week. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I can't complain. It's another Bills W, and one step closer to the playoffs, hopefully. Anyways, let's just jump right into this game. We got to start with Josh Allen, of course. The man went 29 of 42, a completion percentage of 69%, average target of 5.9 yards per pass. I'm going to put an asterisk there because it kind of really tells the tale of what kind of game we had. A quarterback rating of 100.2. Like I said, start off really slow, but in the second half you saw things starting to click, continuity with certain receivers, a.k.a. Beasley, and finished off strong, getting 3 touchdowns in that second half. And, the first half was slow, right? And I don't know if you necessarily can put that all on Josh Allen because Daboll was so committed to the run game, and we'll get to the rushing attack here in just a minute, or later on in the episode, but I think that was a big reason why Josh Allen wasn't as productive in the first half. And Justin, you already know my favorite play. It's that goodbye wave that he did to Christian Wilkins and basically the entire Dolphins defense. Almost caught like 17 taunting penalties, in my opinion, but whatever. We'll take it.
Yeah, you take the good with the bad. My favorite play has to be the Gabe Davis touchdown. I mean, not only for Gabe Davis, but what Josh had to do to get that ball there. He's running for his life. He's getting his face ripped off and still throws a perfect ball. But yeah, kind of like you said, it was a slow start to the game. Definitely a tale of two halves for him. And I think this is a game where we kind of went in with one game plan, and we're kind of trying to stick to that a little bit too much. And by the time we pivoted, it might have been too late against a lot of teams, but we were able to come out in the second half and kind of switch up what we were asking the offense to do, and it really translated. And Josh had a terrific second half. Really was able to get some of the profits, some of the short stuff going. I really liked the swing passes they got going. Mm-hmm. And just kind of with a different game plan, you saw very little production in the first half, and then second half was totally different game.
Yeah, and, Josh Allen, he really started looking like that $42.5 million man in that second half, and I was very, very happy. And we'll explain his importance a little more as we get through this episode, especially when we get to the rushing attack. I have an interesting stat out there for you. Anyways, let's transition to the offensive line here. So one thing I noticed is, which if you're a Bills fan and you pay attention to the offensive line combos, you understand that Spencer Brown was out. So what they did was shift John Feliciano to right guard. Bakker came off the bench, filled in at left guard, and then Darrell Williams kicked out to right tackle, all because Spencer Brown couldn't play. And I thought they were okay today, and I guess unfortunately and unsurprisingly, John Feliciano was the weak link because he got, and he also got hurt, and he's already listed as doubtful against Jacksonville, and we'll see what kind of combo gets trotted out there next week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, especially if Spencer Brown can't go. I don't even know what they do in that situation, but Justin, what were your overall thoughts about this offensive line combo and just how their performance was in general?
Well, for starters, I'll say that I really hope that we have Spencer Brown back next week.
Right.
I think Feliciano getting hurt is unfortunate when you're already banged up across the offensive line. But he's a much easier player to replace right now than Spencer Brown. As far as this past Sunday's game went, I feel like it's kind of a situation where it's nice having the versatility, but almost makes it kind of get too cute when somebody gets hurt. For me, I'd almost rather have a one-for-one swap for Spencer Brown and know where that weakness is going to be and be able to pitch in with maybe a fullback in the backfield chipping or run some more tight end sets, knowing that you're going to have to give some help to the right tackle the whole game. For me, when you start switching, people are playing on the opposite side, and then you're bringing in Butker off the bench, and it's just too many moving pieces, too many different assignments to have to be ready for, especially at such short notice. I think if Brown's able to go, we're in a lot better position next week. I think Butker can pretty much step in one for Feliciano, but if both of them can't go, we might be seeing some Cody Ford at right tackle.
Yeah, or maybe they'll kick out Darrell Williams to right tackle. He was a former All-Pro there. And that's very interesting that you would almost rather have just a one-for-one swap. And I understand why the Bills made that change because, it's, I guess, familiar with them, with Darrell Williams kicking out to the right. However, I think there is some truth, and I definitely see where you're coming from when you almost would rather keep things exactly the same, but know where your weak spot is coming from. When you do the shuffling that the Bills decided to go with, you have a lot of question marks there, right? But if you swap out, I don't know, let's say they did insert Cody Ford, Ryan Bates at right tackle because Spencer Brown couldn't go, you know where to shift the line and where to give more attention to it. So that's very interesting, and I'd be curious if the Bills ever try to do something like that. But I don't know. I mean, that's those are the $1 million questions, and the reason why professionals do it, and we're just stupid podcasters. Let's move on to the tight end room, and I thought Tommy Sweeney did a pretty good job out there, getting his first, start. He caught 3 of 4 passes for 30 yards, and when he was coming out, I think he got drafted the same year as Dawson Knox. Am I right? Yeah, he was like the 7th round out of Boston. When he was coming out in the preseason game, specifically against Carolina, I thought he was more of a natural pass catcher than Dawson Knox was, and we know Dawson Knox, catching woes, and he's come a long way since then. But I think that Tommy Sweeney did exactly what Brian Daboll and this offense asked him to do, contribute. He got us a first down, blocked. He wasn't terrible, and that's all the Bills really needed from him. And I'm just very proud of this guy, considering the path that he's been on, basically out first year because I think he broke his foot or something like that, or something with like a foot injury. And then the next year, the guy gets COVID, gets a heart complication as a result of it, and basically out. And then this year, they bring in Jacob Hollister, and you just automatically kind of assume he's not making the team, but he makes the team, and he's contributing. So good stuff for him. And I'll give you my favorite play after your thoughts.
Yeah, I think Sweeney overall had a pretty good game for, I didn't have the highest expectations for him going into this game. But he kind of reminded me of like a 3-4 year ago, like Tyler Croft role, where we weren't really expecting you to take over the game or anything, but when the opportunities are there, and the ball comes your way, catch the ball, get the yards that are there. He had a big first down conversion, third down conversion rather. I think it was in late third, early fourth quarter, just to keep the chains moving. And, kind of just to echo what you said, and I don't think it can be understated. This guy had a really tough journey to ever make it to a football field, starting with just being a 7th-round pick, and then battling the injuries the first year, dealing with COVID, dealing with a heart complication from it. This is a guy that I was kind of looking at like, it sucks that it's because of, a heart problem, but I kind of figured his career was over. So just to see him out there with that top tier caliber athletes and making plays after everything he's been through, that nothing but respect for the man. I hope he continues to do well.
Yeah, and my favorite play from him was when he got called for that false start, and he was like, "No, I can shift, And then when when they on CBS when they showed the replay, he definitely false started. He was like, "No, that was totally legal.
It's just resetting."
Yeah, guy, let me be. I know the rules, but he thought he could get away with it. So funny. Let's move on to the wide receivers here, Justin. And, as I mentioned, the average depth of target for Josh Allen was 5.9 yards. And it's a huge short passing day for them. And even a bigger day for Cole Beasley, right? I even tweeted out when Beasley was starting to heat up, like saying, the only boos I want to hear are from the fans that are dressed up as ghosts in the crowd, because this man is going in right now. And when it was all said and done, he had 10 catches on 13 targets for 110 yards. Unbelievable day. And, just really contributed to Josh Allen's second half efforts. And then you look at Diggs, caught 5 out of 7 passes for 40 yards, one of which was a TD. Gabriel Davis, which you alluded to, caught, started heating up, catching 4 out of 5 targets, one of which, again, was a touchdown pass from Josh Allen, which, again, is my favorite play out of all the, wide receiver plays. And, Emmanuel Sanders had a lonely 0 catches on 4 targets and 0 yards, so kind of a upsetting day for him. But overall, I was happy with how this wide receiver room balled out.
Yeah, so for me, this is the beauty of the wide receiver depth that we have. You have a team in Miami. They got Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. They're both, top flight starting number 1 cornerbacks, and they have them playing opposite each other. So a game where Diggs was a little quieter, we didn't see any receptions for Sanders, but it seems like it's kind of a week to week. You see a lot of like riding the hot hand with running backs, but we kind of have that in our receiving core, where, we've seen weeks where Beasley has next to nothing, but Emmanuel Sanders has 100 yards. We saw Diggs have a big game. This week it was Beasley. And it's kind of, the ball's getting spread around, but each week it seems like it's a different guy having a big game. So like I can only imagine being a defensive coordinator, game planning this week and like, okay, we got to take away Diggs and we got to take away Sanders. They've been killing teams, and then just Bees goes off for 100 yards on you. I have to say my favorite play of the game, it has to be in the third quarter, Bees converting that 3rd and 13, the first one. He had 2 of them.
The first one.
Yeah. He had 2 3rd and 13 conversions, but that first one was really kind of just a spark for a team that had been struggling, and it goes on to be, I think it was a 13-play, 80-yard touchdown drive, and the first touchdown of the game. And I'm not sure the game looks the same at the end of it if we don't get that conversion. I will say, the only thing I'll say against Beasley for this game is that passing play that they did. Love the love the idea. Love the idea of it. And I know, a receiver gets a chance to throw a touchdown, and he's throwing that ball. But the coaching's got to be there that, if they sniff out the play and it's double covered and one of them's Xavier Howard, please just throw the ball out of bounds. I can't blame him for trying the pass, because if it was me, I'd be hurling that ball up too. But I think we were very fortunate to not have a turnover in that situation. Very fortunate.
Yeah. It's funny because as soon as I saw Beasley go in the backfield, go behind Josh Allen, I thought to myself, like, is this that Beasley passing play? And then it was. So, like, if I could sniff it out from, like, my TV, I just imagine the professional players are like, I know this play.
Howard's like, I know what's happening. I'm going to get an interception.
But he didn't. And that's all that matters. So they live to fight another day. But that I forgot about that one. Good play selection. That's funny.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the running backs here. And oh boy, the rushing attack did not work on Halloween against the Miami Dolphins. I don't know if it's because the team was trotting out a new offensive line combo, the lackluster of talent that we have in the running back room. But this Bills rushing attack was so hard to watch. And I'll quickly go over this, but like Moss, he did well when he caught the ball, catching 6 out of 7, good for like 39 yards. That's pretty good. But when he was rushing the ball, he had 19 yards on 8 carries. That's only good for 2.4 yards on average. And then you look at Singletary, he only caught the ball once for 1 measly little yard. But then when he rushed, he got 28 yards on 7 carries, an average of 4 yards per average. So they were almost like flip-flopped, I guess. One could catch, one could rush, but neither could really do both. And not saying 4 yards on average from Singletary is good enough, but it was better than 2.4 yards from Moss. But here's the kicker, Justin, and this is what I alluded to earlier in the episode. Allen had more yards on the ground than both of them combined on half of their combined carries. So I think each of them, so Moss had it 7 times, Singletary had it 8 times, Allen had it 8 times. They both, Moss and Singletary, couldn't amount to Josh Allen's 55 yards between both of them when they had double the carries.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, the run game goes through, I guess I'd say it's more spurts of being decent, but I struggle with how I feel about the run game because I think it's a combination of all the factors. I don't think our offensive line is opening up enough holes for the running backs. Mm-hmm. I feel like the running backs aren't talented enough to make something out of nothing if they don't have a hole there. They're both fine. Moss is fine at, putting down his shoulder and getting through a guy, but he's got to get a few yards down the field first. Singletary will make the first guy miss, but if the first guy he's got to make misses behind the line of scrimmage, there's somebody else there to clean it up. So I think this week in particular, it was kind of like the whole first half, it was just like ramming your head against a wall. Like we were having no success. And I'm a big advocate for having some balance to the team and being able to sprinkle in the run plays, but there has to be some sort of effectiveness to it. And I think in the first half, it was also very predictable. It was a lot of, 1st and 10, we're running the ball. And then, you're starting out so many drives, we gain 1 yard or we lose 2 yards, and you're starting out so many drives behind the sticks. So I think this continues to be an issue from last year. We've had a couple of weeks where it looks like it might be getting a little bit better, and then we put up this stinker of a week. So I don't know that the answer is on the team. And with the offensive line that we have currently, I don't think either of these running backs are good enough to really have a big day without the holes being opened up. So unless you're bringing in an elite talent at running back, I just don't see much changing.
Yeah, and I think Joe Marino said something along those lines too, and he commented on how McDermott was saying like, "Oh, you want to be two-dimensional on offense, but unfortunately, with what we have in the backfield, we can't really be that. It's like Moss and Singletary don't scare defenses. They don't. And the Bills know that, but they're still going to try, which I understand, but it's just not effective, at least right now. Who knows what happened? And like I said, the new offensive line combo that we put out there could have been a huge reason why the run game was ineffective, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see as the season unfolds.
Yeah, and to your point there, I understand the not wanting to be one-dimensional. Letting defenses plan for just the pass and, never having the threat of the run. But we did that last year, and it worked really well. And I understand teams adjust and get film and have different game plans. But we had no running game last year, and we were like, okay, well, if we can't run the ball, Josh is going to throw it 50 times a game. And just honestly, in some of the situations, it just feels like we're taking an opportunity away from what the strength is of the team. So and it's just hard for me right now.
Yeah, it's hard to justify taking snaps away from Josh Allen and giving it to whoever in the backfield. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's move on to special teams, Justin, before we get into the break. Matt Hawk, he's just a holder, right? His punts are too wishy-washy for me. He had a 19-yard punt, but then after that he kind of bounced back, I guess, with being consistent, and I'm using air quotes here because that 19-yard punt was so bad. And then Tyler Bass, he's the beneficiary of Matt Hawk's holding technique because he made 57 yards look easy, and he was doing pretty good out there, and I think we got a good one, Bass. And I'll wrap up here by talking about McKenzie, and damn, bro. You make some decisions look so questionable out there, and he's too wishy-washy for me, too. Like, I don't know, and thank God for Jake Kumro, and I put out a tweet saying, McKenzie was probably just like, oh crap, and then Kumro was like that SpongeBob meme that's like taking deep breaths because he had to hustle to the ball, like where he's taking like behind the rock and he's like a naked SpongeBob. He's like, whew, whew. I think we all felt like that SpongeBob meme that day.
Yeah, that was Isaiah.
That could have been bad.
That was Isaiah McKenzie hurting my heart again, and I guess that's as good a place as any to start. This is kind of something that I've talked about before the season started. I love the fact that he has the explosiveness to him if you need that in a situation. But the most important part of the return game to me is making sure the ball ends up back in Josh Allen's hands. And at this point, when he gets the ball in his hands and starts running, I'm like, oh, cool, something big might happen. And when the ball is in the air and going to him, I'm holding my breath every time. And that to me is very problematic because I just want our offense is talented enough that we don't need to thrive on, getting a 30-yard punt return. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know what Marquez Stevenson's health is or what he would look like as a punt returner, but I'm getting to the point where I want to take a look at it.
Either that or put Micah Hyde back there, right? I just guarantee a catch.
Yeah, I like that idea on paper, but I don't want Hyde taking any unnecessary hits. Somebody getting pushed into him or something either. I'd almost rather the ball just be punted and downed wherever it goes than have anybody back there right now. We'll take the ball wherever it ends up.
Right.
Well, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
So Matt Hawk for me. every time he is punting, I'm holding my breath in a similar fashion. But what I've started doing, I haven't told you this one yet, is
Okay.
I've started reminding myself that Corey Bajorquez, I think he only qualified for the punting award for average by one punt. And I'm just kind of not thinking about Matt Hawk at all as a punter. I'm just planning on him not punting enough to ruin my day. And if the trade-off is we have a punter that doesn't really have to be used, and it affords us Tyler Bass hitting 57-yard field goals, I guess I can live with that. I'd rather be able to have somebody that puts points on the board in Bass because he has good holds than having beautiful punts, I guess.
Yeah. Any significant field goal or, impactful play made by Tyler Bass is validation enough that Bajorquez was not the guy. I'll just leave it at that. And that's going to wrap it up for the offense and special teams. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Stick with us. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to wrap up today's episode by talking about the defensive highlights and recapping just in general our thoughts about how they performed against Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. So we're going to start with the defensive line here. And I thought this game for them started off slow, but it was clear that the Dolphins didn't want what happened in week 2 to happen again to Tua. They were like, let's try to keep our quarterback upright. And I think that they paid a lot of attention to the edge positions as a result, but that just kind of left, Ed Oliver to just feast up in the middle, and boy, did he have a game. And he won't really show up in the stat box, but this man was just out there. And if you were watching the game, you saw his impact. It kind of like how AJ Epinesa didn't really show up in the stat box in week 2, but he had like 9 QB pressures or something like that. Something absurd. So Ed Oliver had himself a great day. And even the old timers got sacks. Mario Addison and Jerry Hughes both got a sack each. And Groot looked good. Looked like he was back on track. And I guess I'll say this before I kick the ball in your court for your opinions on the defensive line. How was that not illegal hands to the face on that 40-yard pass to Gesicki? The man, I don't know I forgot who the right tackle was, but he literally shoved Groot's helmet off his face. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I have no answer for that, and I think that was probably their biggest play of the whole day, and it was kind of like, I don't know, you said something earlier about on the Beasley pass that you could sniff that out from home. I mean, we're watching it on TV and the guy's helmet's rolling around. Like, the helmets don't come off by themselves, but
definitely not.
Yeah, is what it is. But yeah, I think the defensive line played overall pretty well. I think the Dolphins definitely came in with a game plan of we need to get this ball out of Tua's hands quickly, and it wasn't the statistical eye-popping numbers that we had against them in week 2. But I'm trying to think of a better game I've seen from Ed Oliver as a Bill. I certainly don't think I've seen it yet this year. And like you said, it's not going to show up on the stat sheet what he did this week. I think his overall stats only was like 2 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, something like that. But that man was coming right up the middle, playing on fire. Really just, it's almost as good as a sack to me to really have pressure in your face that fast, and Ed Oliver sprinting at you. That just sounds terrifying. But yeah, the only sore spot for me here, I think Harrison Phillips had a decent game. I'm all set on Vernon Butler. I think any snaps he's taking away from anybody, I understand they want to do the rotation and keep guys fresh. But I'd rather have one of our other guys half-winded out there than see Vernon Butler on another down.
I'd rather have FA or like Boogie get kicked inside than see him.
Absolutely.
All right, let's transition to linebackers, and I got a feeling that this is going to be a quick one for us because Milano and Edmonds, they just keep having really good, consistent plays out there so far into the season. They are just doing really, really good. And if Edmonds keeps up this level of play, he's going to get paid. No doubt in my mind. He's going to get paid, and that might upset some Bills Mafia fans out there, but I think so far he's earned it. And Milano is showing the reason why he should have been compensated this offseason, and he's doing great himself. And I especially love him in coverage. So I'll turn the keys over to you to talk about the linebackers, Justin.
Yeah, I think Milano continues to be fantastic. He's the guy that we know he is. He's playing lights out. The one for me is Edmonds. We know going back not too long ago, probably within about the last month, I had lots of reservations on Edmonds, and it was really only to do with the fact that he's about to get a huge contract. And it was literally like since the week I said that he just has started looking just top notch. He's playing loose, he's playing instinctive, and I have to point out because I've had a couple buddies, chirping at me about the missed tackle that he had in the open field. I think it was on Gaskin. I'm giving my man a pass on that. First of all, everybody misses some tackles. Granted, it has been something that he struggled with, but that was a play where Sean McDermott was literally sprinting down the sideline trying to get a timeout in. There was something about that play that he knew that he didn't have his defense set up for success, and the Dolphins got one on us, and whatever. Edmonds has been playing great, and I eat all of the crow. I'm sorry, Tremaine.
No, keep it up. Keep it up. I like where this is going. Let's transition to the cornerbacks here, and I thought that they had a really, really good day today, and if I got to point at someone having a bad day, again, I'm using air quotes here, it's got to be Levi, right? And the first half wasn't ideal for him. Of course, he's going to get a lot of targets because Trey White is the opposite corner from him. But, Devontae Parker, he had himself a pretty good football game, in my opinion. I think he almost got 100 yards on us. But at the same time, his impact, Devontae Parker's impact of the game, really didn't continue in the second half. And for all the gripe that people want to give Levi for his performance in that game, he looked his worst, I guess, in the first half. And the Dolphins only got 3 points away from it. So does it really matter? I guess so, but the scoreboard will tell you something else. The second half performance was way better from him, and we got to talk about Trey White here. Looked like an absolute shutdown corner. Teron Johnson looked great. Jalen Waddle basically wasn't a factor in this game. And if you take away that long pass from Gesicki, he's only 2 for 3 for 8 yards. So, and I understand that was kind of on Micah Hyde, but still, they did a good job on receiving the passes from Tua Tagovailoa today.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite games from Trey that I can remember recently. It was the Dolphins weren't scared to go after him, and I don't know why they continued to do it because they weren't having success there. But I think Trey sometimes gets lost in how good he is and how much of an impact he has on this team because people simply don't throw his way. So he's not really impacting the game. And, they got a couple on him, whatever. That happens to everybody. But the number of, pass breakups that he had, he had one, the one on Gesicki. Yeah, he might have got there a little early, but it was just kind of funny seeing him at the end of the play on Gesicki's back. It looked like
I was going to say that was my favorite play because he basically just hopped up on him and he was like, let's go.
I'm going for a ride, but you're not going to have the ball. Yeah, but
right.
I think you can say whatever you want about Levi. This is kind of a classic Levi game, and he obviously has his limitations, but I think our coaching staff is comfortable with that because they know exactly what they are. Like, does he have to play 7-10 yards off the ball because he doesn't have the foot speed or the physicality? Like, yeah, but he makes the tackles and he gives up some plays, but you know exactly what you're getting in him. So I don't think Levi's going anywhere. I don't think they're going to use the resources necessary to replace him. And I mean, if Levi Wallace is the biggest glaring need on your defense, you have a pretty solid unit. So overall, I thought it was a pretty good day.
Well said. Well said. Let's transition to the last position group here, and it's the safeties. Again, this will be a quick one because Poyer and Hyde were amazing once again. Poyer had a nice pick, and Hyde, as I mentioned, he did let up that one big pass to Gesicki, but whatever. I'm not really gonna hit on him too much because he also played really well today, and in a way, they wanted Tua to make those kind of throws today, or I guess on Halloween, and he was only good for one time, so it's okay.
And Hyde also had that fumble recovery and a nice return there, and that was
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That was that reminded me of like some drought era Bills play where it's like, oh, we're not supposed to be anywhere near beating this team, and we have a chance to go up a score in halftime, and then a snap goes off a player in motion. Like, I've never seen that happen in my life, and I'm sitting.
Totally Bill's thing to do.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, if Miami goes up 10-3 at half, they get the ball back. Like, all right, strap in, and then it goes the completely other way. So, heads up play on by Hyde to get that ball back.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, let's transition to the spotlight player of the game, and there are some people that we could go here, like Beasley or Oliver, but at least for me, and I went with that Oliver. I thought his early impact of the game transitioned very well into the second half, which is why I picked him over Beasley, even though Beasley had a monster game. It just took him to the second half to really get involved, and Oliver was just consistent all throughout the game. So that's why I picked my guy Ed Oliver.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of different directions you could go in this game, and most of it was like second half performance. I went with Trey White just because we don't see many games where he gets targeted that much and where he kind of like gets to showcase why he's so good. And I feel like there's a lot of weeks where he could be an easy pick, but when the ball's not coming your way and you're barely on the screen for passing plays because it's going to the opposite side of the field to avoid you, it just doesn't stand out as much to the naked eye. So him getting chances to impact the game and really make plays was really fun for me to see. So that's my guy this week.
Word. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and review our podcast as well as other amazing shows that you can find on the Built-in Buffalo Network. Justin and I will be here tomorrow on Thursday to give you our, Jacksonville Jaguars primer episode. We're always looking for great guests on our show, so if you're interested, feel free to reach out to us on our social media platforms if you're interested by looking up the Wandering Buffalo podcast. Justin, where can the people find you?
You can find me on any social media at jgods22.
And you can always find me on social media by searching up Two Changs. That's going to do it for today's episode. See you tomorrow.
Go Bills.